my friends, for the Derate the Hate podcast. I am Wilk from wilksworld.com, and this is going to be episode 60 of the podcast. Now, I'm actually on vacation this week with my family, so this is going to be a short little solo episode, kind of based on some things I've been seeing in the news as of late, and talk about some previous guests that we've had on the show. But first things first, here at the Derate the Hate podcast, we're all about bettering the world, one attitude at a time. Now, we did not create the hate, but with your help, we can derate the hate. So, what have you done today to make your life a better life? What have you done today to make the world a better place? Now, I've been truly blessed to have some great guests over the past several weeks, and all those people have, one thing in common, and that is that they are all about bettering the world. And they all do it in their own different ways. And like I said, I feel totally blessed having had the opportunity to get to speak to a lot of the people that I get to speak with on this podcast. One of those guests is Kendall Qualls. Now, if you'll recall back in episode 44 when I talked to Kendall, we talked about faith, family, and education, the resurrection of the American black family. And one thing that we did talk about briefly in that episode was critical race theory. Now, critical race theory has been popping up a lot in the news lately, a lot. Because, let's just face it, critical race theory, by most logical minds, is a poisonous, just hateful ideology. And when we have school boards and government officials and the news trying to shove this critical race theory down the throats of the American people, that's hate. I don't know that there is a bigger definition of hate than to shove an ideology with which most people disagree down their throats. And it's not just about bringing awareness so much as the fact that if you look at what's happening, it's not enough for a lot of these people to just be anti-racist. You have to be full-on woke, and you have to be fully on board with what they're shoveling, or they are going to do their best to destroy you, cancel you. We talked about the cancel culture in several different episodes, and the things that are going on with that. So the reason I bring this up is because Kendall Qualls had a phenomenal interview with Breitbart that I recently saw online, and I'll link to that article in the show notes because it's a great article. And Kendall's organization, Take Charge Minnesota, has done some phenomenal work since their official launch on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. He and his organization, like I said, Take Charge Minnesota, are doing great things, and one of their primary goals and one of their primary objectives is to reinvigorate, rebuild the American black family. Back one of the infographics from Take Charge Minnesota that I recently saw showed that back during the time of Martin Luther King and when Martin Luther King Jr. was marching and doing such great work to build that unity, fight for the equality of all people in this nation. 80% of black families were two-parent households, and now fast forward to modern day. And now we have 80% of black families are one-parent households. So, and there's a direct correlation between the inequality of income and whether a family is still intact with both parents, both parents in the home, things like that. So, Kendall's organization, Take Charge Minnesota, was really one of the first organizations that's taken it to the front line, so to speak, in this fight against not only the nonsense that is critical race theory, but also trying to bring back that intact family for the American black family, because the data shows that those who grow up in an intact two-parent household have every bit the same opportunity and same types of outcomes that any other race does. But your mainstream talking heads and those that are hell-bent on keeping us divided don't like to bring that up. They'd rather use something like critical race theory to tell everybody that has a problem in life that it's probably because you're oppressed and somebody else is the oppressor. And in this case, with critical race theory, they're always pushing this narrative that because you're you're one ethnicity or another, that the reason that you have such a hard time and the reason that you have a problem in life is because the white man is bringing you down. That's not the case, and I think the vast majority of reasonable-minded people understand that. But again, like I said, it's not enough for you to just simply say, "Well, I'm not racist. Of course, I'm not racist." I mean, I talked in episode 45 with Dr. Alana Fishbein of NoLeftTurn.us, about indoctrination in education. And one thing that her and I talked about was look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Are you racist? I'm not racist. You're not racist. Most people are not racist. This country is not a racist country. Like I said, there are people out there that are hell-bent on making sure that anybody who does feel oppressed, anybody who feels like a victim, has somebody to blame. And in the case of critical race theory, that person to blame is anybody who's white. And they tried to make it out like the country was built upon racism. The United States has racism ingrained in its DNA. And no matter what we do nowadays, they're telling kids in school, and this is one of the things that we talked about in episode 45 with Dr. Fishbein, was they're teaching kids in school that literally just because you're white, you're automatically an oppressor, and just because you're not white, you're automatically oppressed. And that's kind of this concept of critical race theory. And I think the reason that you're starting to see it so prevalent now is because people are starting to get fed up. And it has become such a, well, again, like I said, it's just this poisonous ideology. And like I said, with it becoming so prevalent, and there's school boards, and I mean, even here in central Minnesota, we've seen they're looking to change the curriculum in the public school system, and one of the things that they're going to be talking about is this critical race theory crap. And quite honestly, we as parents, we as Americans, not even just parents, but we as Americans have to stand up against that poisonous ideology, because like we talked about, Martin Luther King Jr. was all about, let's judge a person based on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. Well, critical race theory stands in direct contrast to that concept. It throws it right out the window. The whole thing about content of character versus color of skin, there's no place for that in critical race theory. And like I said, when you there's actually a video that I'll link to, a Fox News video about these parents in Loudoun County, Virginia, who have just been beat down emotionally, mentally, had their, just character assassination after character assassination. People just, in this video, I just watched this video this morning, and as they're interviewing this one gal on her front porch, her neighbor across the street, who apparently used to be her friend, walks out of the house and is walking across the driveway, both birds flying. And I was just, and she, it brings the gal that they were talking to tears, and as it would, because, we've seen over the past several years how divisive the news has gotten, and how, politicians are just trying so hard to divide us. And like I said, it's not enough to just say, well, I'm not a racist. You have to be, militantly anti-racist, or these that are, these super woke folks are going to do everything to destroy you. They'll go to your workplace to try to destroy you there. They'll go so far as to, publish your kids' names and where they go to school, and just all kinds of just nasty and hateful things. So, the reality is there are a lot of incredible and great people out there doing wonderful things to try and better the world. Like I said, we've been blessed on this show, on the Derate the Hate podcast, to have have had the opportunity to interview some really great guests like Kendall Qualls, and if you have not checked out Kendall Qualls and his Take Charge Minnesota organization and the great things that they're doing, check that out, because that stands in contrast to that narrative that we get so much from the toxic news networks and the things that we see online and in social media, and all this negativity all the time, all negative all the time. Well, the reality is people like Kendall Qualls, who are actually taking that fight to the front lines and actually trying to do good instead of doing what feels good. Because believe it or not, doing good and doing what feels good, not always the same thing. And people like Kendall are and the folks over at Take Charge Minnesota are actually doing good. They've got the data, they've got the fight going in the right direction. They know what needs to be done instead of just portraying everything as racist and all the disparities faced by minorities as due to racism, because the reality is the facts show that that's not the truth. And Kendall and the folks over at Take Charge Minnesota doing a phenomenal job. Also, Dr. Alana Fishbein and her organization, NoLeftTurn.us, doing a great job at bringing awareness and showing people the reality of what is being taught in our schools, and bringing to the forefront that those poisonous ideologies and those things that are happening in our public school system that we as parents and we as Americans need to be aware of. So follow people like that, and then like I said, all the other guests that we've had over the past several weeks, life coaches and people just promoting the good deeds that people can do, and the good things that people can do, and the things that we can do for ourselves to make our lives better lives. There's so much good out there. Just like I talked about in episode 52, that reticular activating system, and that reticular activating system and the perpetual victim mentality. Well, our brain is geared, our brain is geared towards focusing on so many things. And if we're constantly focused on the negative things that are out there, that's all we're going to see. That's all that we're ever going to see. And we're going to portray everything in life as being negative and bad. So what you want to do, and what we talk about all the time here, is you want to avoid all that negativity and avoid ideologies that portray people as oppressed and oppressors, and equate everything to race. Because if you're constantly focused on things like race and those that are constantly trying to put us all in a box, we talked about that in a previous episode. If you're constantly looking at things in terms of race instead of people's character, and surrounding yourself by people of good character, that's all you're going to ever see. That's all you're going to ever see is nothing but racism and bad and oppressed and oppressors and this and that, instead of getting the actual facts and surrounding yourself by good, positive people. Like, we just had a phenomenal guest this past week, Jonathan Trowan, talking about self-love and the things that we can do as a person to help us become our own best friend. The folks over at iSpark Change with Rick Ornelas, such great guests. And another organization I almost forgot to mention, but somebody that I've become very involved with over the past several weeks, due to my good friends over at the Braver Angels, braverangels.org, and when I interviewed Rick and Barbara from Braver Angels, and they got me involved with that organization. Another phenomenal organization looking to bring people together, bridging that divide between people of different ideologies and different political thoughts and things like that. So, check Braver Angels out, because that is another organization doing phenomenal things, trying to bridge that divide and take the tension out of a good conversation, unlike those who are just bent on dividing us. That's all we're all trying to do. The same thing here at the D-Rate the Hate podcast. Surround yourself with positivity. Find the good things. Block out those bad things. Be aware of those bad things. Understand what those bad things. Understand the poison that is is out there, and understand it, because you have to know what it is. You have to be able to identify it so that you know how to avoid it. But then spend all of your time, spend all of your energy really working towards a better you. Because, again, this world will become a better world by you becoming a better you. Here at the D-Rate the 8 podcast, we're all about bettering the world, one attitude at a time. So I'll ask you, as I always do, what have you done today to make your life a better life? What have you done today to make the world a better place? Please help me, help you, help the world. Let's do it together. D-Rate the 8 podcast. Let's make this happen. Let's make this happen together. Get out there. Be kind to one another. Be grateful for everything that you've got. And remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the D-Rate the 8 podcast. Share us with your friends. Hit us up with some feedback on any of the audio platforms where you listen to your podcasts. If you've got something for me, email me, wilk@wilksworld.com. Thank you very much for listening. I am going to back on out of here. Catch you next week.